And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 590N Sports High School Sports Preview Show over District 9 3A Division 1. I'm Craig Irwin with 590N Sports, and I'd like to thank our title sponsor, Randy Rubbs, randysrubs.com. If you have not checked these guys out, you're missing out. Locally owned, locally operated. He's just right over there in Magnolia. He's New Caney alumni, the OG from Wood Branch, Texas, and myself, we tore a lot of shins up on some old Huffy and BMX bicycles out in the subdivision. But go check them out, randysrubs.com. You will not be disappointed. 13, this is it. Popcorn, they have it. Go get it. I promise you, you will not be disappointed, and you will clean out your spice rack at the house because I know we did at ours. So go check them out, randysrubs.com. It don't suck, y'all. I promise. So let's get into District 9 3A Division 1. Let's talk a little football over here. So as we wrap up district play, going into week 5, kind of should have all the kinks worked out, right? Well, we're going to talk about those kinks, and we're going to talk about where we think these district, or where I think this district is going to end up and how it's going to play out. Probably going to surprise a few of y'all. Just going to throw that out there because I know there's a lot of people that listen and know how I feel about a couple of different teams. And so we're going to get started. We're going to talk about how this district is sitting right now. So the Cold Spring Trojans, 2-2 overall record. Crockett's 3-1. Daball 2-2. Huntington's 1-3. Palestine Westwood's 1-3. Pay attention to that. Shepherd 2-2. Woodville 3-1. So that's how this district shapes up. Going into the first week of district play, you got Huntington going to be at Cold Spring. Crockett going to be at Shepherd. Woodville is going to be at Daball, and Palestine Westwood has a bye this week. So, saying all of that to narrow down and kind of get into this district. Cold Spring coming off of a loss last week against the Corrigan Camden Bulldogs. Really kind of surprised to everybody. Surprised me as well, because if you go back and you look at my pick'ems, I had Cold Spring picked to win that game. It was a 30-33 final there, and Cold Spring 5 turnovers throughout the night. The Bulldogs from Corrigan were able to capitalize. So they were able to put up points, obviously 33. Trojans tried to make a run in the second half, and it was just too little too late. So that's how that game wrapped up. Crockett Bulldogs last week coming off a win against Groesbeck. 39-34 was the final there. Don't know a whole bunch about Crockett, but what I do know, another coaching change. You go and you look at the wins that they have. They beat Marlin 48-31. They lost to Rusk 53-21. They beat Buna 21-20. Think those two teams, obviously by the score, evenly matched. Buna's not a very good football team. Later podcasts, we're going to talk about Buna out of District 10 3A. Groesbeck 39-34. Everybody that they've played, pretty evenly matched, right? Except for Rusk. Rusk is a bigger school, 4A. So that's going to kind of be a little bit of difference there for them. So that's Crockett. Let's talk about Daball. Daball has a season opener against, if my computer will click, their season opener was against Madisonville. They got blanked in that game. Daball beat them. Madisonville beat Daball. It was 42-0. They go to Kirbyville, get the win 33-24. They lose to Franklin 23-35. Remember that score as it's going to come relevant really in what I break down and how I break down as we get further along in talking about this district. Let's jump over to Woodville. Let's talk about the relevancy here. Woodville's season opener was a loss to Franklin, 22-12, 10-point game, right? We just talked about Daball losing to Franklin. Now, I say this loss for Woodville, that's a season opener against a very good Franklin football team. Maybe not have your feet all the way up underneath you, not quite the start you want. Then you defeat, obviously, as everybody knows, a really good Newton team, 23-22, defeat Liberty 34-27, and then Orangefield 33-7. A couple by-district matchups for the Woodville Eagles, and Woodville sitting 3-1. Let's talk about the Shepherd Pirates. As soon as that screen pulls up, their loss was to a top 25 team, New Waverly, 44-32. Talking to Coach Robinson, a couple late turnovers was the difference in that game for the Shepherd Pirates. Defeat Tarkington 30-14. Talking to old buddy of mine, Tarkington had that game in the bag through the first half, right? Doesn't matter. You got to play 4 quarters. Shepherd able to pull that one off, doubling the score. 30-14 was the final there. A loss to Orangefield, 26-42 final there. Shepherd had some kids out with injury and trying to get them healed up. A couple offensive linemen in that game and suffered that loss. Talking to Coach Robinson, he felt like if he had everybody, then that game's a tighter game than what the score shows. Last week, homecoming week for the Pirates, they win 38-7 over a bad Hempstead team. So who did we cover? We got Crockett, we got Daball, we got Huntington. We've covered Woodville. We talked about Shepherd. Let's jump out talk about the Panthers over there at Palestine. 3-1 record. I told y'all this was going to be kind of relevant. 3-1 record for the Panthers. They defeated Kemp 41-14. Played Buffalo, lost 14-18, 4-point game. Had a 9-point game against Palmer. Who is Palmer? Palmer's in the top 10 out of 3A Division II. Good football teams. Lost to New Waverly, 28-36. Another tight game. Still a loss for the Panthers, but top 25 team, and they're knocking on the door. I say all of that. Now we're going to finish up with the Cold Spring Trojans out of this district. Y'all remember what I said there. Liberty, a win, 28-21. Let's remember, Cold Spring put 28 points up in the first half. Liberty scored 21 unanswered points in the second half in that game. No defense. Splendora, 34-7. The one game the Trojans play 4 quarters of football and put up a solid win. Things were looking good for Cold Spring. Now you go up to Hampshire Finette. Really good football team. 4A, I look for them to make a big run in the playoffs. Terrible loss. 42-12 was the final over there. Not a good performance. It's like Cold Spring didn't even show up to that game, honestly. As that game got started, it was just like the defense had zero answers. And that's been the struggle overall for the Trojans. Corrigan Camden Bulldogs, homecoming night in Cold Spring. Cold Spring falls short to them 30-33. 5 turnovers. 2 missed opportunities on special teams, turning the ball over there, giving the Bulldogs the ball. 33-30 final. Hey, Parker Kidd had 253 yards rushing in that game. Those are numbers that you should have on winning a ball game, but the turnovers cost the Trojans. So I'm just not real sure about that. So let's talk about how we look at this district and how it's going to match up. So we're getting started, and we're going to start with the top 2 teams out of this district, okay? They're going to meet up. What I feel like are the top 2 teams out of this district. We'll leave it at that. They're meeting up this week in Daball. Woodville at Daball this week. I think Daball's going to put up a fight. I don't think they have enough to beat Woodville. I think if this game is in about week 8, I think in Daball, I think you have a different outcome. But with Woodville going to Daball this early on. Daball's that team that gets a slow start, and they build off of each game and become better. I think this game is being played too early for the Daball Lumberjacks to win a district title. I got Woodville picked to win this one Friday night. It's going to be a tight ball game, probably a one-score game, but I think it's going to be a tight ball game. I got Woodville winning this district, Daball coming in the 2 spot. Let's move over to the 3-4 side. So this is where it gets tricky. You got, in my opinion, 3 teams that could go in the 3-4 spot. Well, there's only 2 spots. Here's how I feel like it's going to break down. Remember me talking to you about the Palestine Westwood starting out 1-3? I think you're going to see that flop coming into district. They have a bye this week. They're probably going to be in Daball watching that game overall. But I think it's going to come down to the Shepherd Pirates, Palestine Westwood, and Cold Spring. Crockett's not even a factor. Hadn't even really said a whole bunch about Crockett. I don't think Crockett's going to be able to mow through district. I think they're going to be okay. They're going to make some games out of it, just not be able to finish. So I got Crockett, Huntington at the bottom 2 spots. So that still leaves me 3, 4, 5, right? Well, as I look at it and I break it down and I look at late in the season and with what Cold Spring has done, so you got Cold Spring, Shepherd, and Palestine Westwood. I think with the hire of Ked Harrison for the Shepherd Pirates, Coach Robinson got him hired over the summer. Great asset to the defensive side of the ball for the Shepherd Pirates. I think Shepherd is going to edge out Palestine when they meet up. That's going to put Shepherd in the 3 spot. And here's what I'm saying. It's going to put Shepherd in the 3 spot. I have Shepherd beating Cold Spring on the road in Shepherd for Cold Spring's last game of the season. I got Shepherd beating Cold Spring. I also have Palestine Westwood beating Cold Spring in Palestine 2 weeks prior. So with that being said, I have Shepherd into the 3 spot, Palestine Westwood in the 4 spot out of District 9 3A Division 1. Cold Spring going to be finishing with a 4-6 record. I think that really shocks everybody, or is going to shock everybody with coming down with that type of record. And we'll talk a little bit more in a later podcast on how the records and so on and so forth. But I think you can kind of figure out where I'm at and how I'm looking at this stuff. We'll talk about Shepherd Pirates real fast because they're really relevant and really right here close. I think Shepherd beats Crockett at home this week. They'll lose to Woodville. I think they beat Westwood at home. I think they lose to Daball. They beat Cold Spring, and they beat Huntington going into Week 11 of high school football. Jumping over here to Palestine Westwood. I think their district opener is going to be at home against Daball. They're going to lose that game. They'll lose to Shepherd. They'll beat Cold Spring. They'll beat Huntington. They'll beat Crockett. And they'll fall to Woodville. I have Shepherd finishing 3, Cold Spring finishing 4. So put some rub on this from randysrubs.com. Take my word for it. If I'm wrong, you can let me know later on in the comments. Hey, you were wrong, Craig. But that's just my prediction and how I kind of see things. Don't forget to go see our sponsor, Randy's. Our sponsor, Randy's Rubs, randysrubs.com. This is it seasoning. I promise you it'll be the last thing that you buy. It's good for anything and everything that you have. So go see my buddy, Randy Nance, at randysrubs.com and tell him we sent you. Y'all have a great night, and we'll see you at the game.